What's up, tribe? How you guys doing? Make sure you are getting your Black Girl vitamins using my discount code ReallyBTV. Thank you to everybody that has already purchased and supported me. Make sure you're getting your vitamins. I just put me a new order in this weekend, and I will let you guys know what I got and what I'm and how I am liking it. Okay. I didn't start. Hold on. Okay. So I didn't start the these yet, the ones that I got for the hair, skin, and nails. I said I was gonna wait until after I took my braids out and stuff. Don't ask me why, but in my mind it made sense. So I will definitely let you guys know how this works out. Y'all know I've had hair growth issues, and my hair is not as thick as it used to be. You see, it's growing, but we definitely gonna see what that does. And with my nails, even though I do wear overlays, my nails grow long, they just don't grow strong. Like they're really weak. So I'm gonna see what's going on with that. So anyway, come on in, you guys. Come on in. I told you guys that I wanted to look at the Gary Coleman documentary. So I literally just got finished watching it a few minutes ago, and I definitely have some thoughts. I don't know how many of you have had a chance to go and check it out yet. I am streaming on both my channels. If you are on the main channel, it is on a members only. It should be a members only chat. If you want to chat freely, you guys can go over to ReallyBTV reviews and you can talk as much as you want. You don't have to become a member on this channel, although you could. And it is the first of the month, so I will be gifting memberships at the end of this live. Y'all don't let me forget. I will be gifting memberships because it's the first of the month, but you don't have to be a member on this channel. You can go over to ReallyBTV reviews and you can chat as much as you want over there. Okay. So let's get into this. For those of you that are in my age range or older, we all know Gary Coleman. We all know Different Strokes. And we probably remember a lot of other movies and things like that Gary Coleman was in. Gary Coleman is probably one of, if not the most, but one of the most famous child stars, certainly of my generation. I could not help. Do have my notes, but I know my thoughts sometimes might be all over the place. But I'm gonna say this because I don't want to forget this point. I could not help but think about the fact that one of the biggest problems that Gary Coleman had trying to transition after Different Strokes was canceled was he wanted to do action movies. He wanted to be a villain. He wanted to get into law enforcement. And we know that Gary Coleman was 4'8", and we'll get into all of that in a minute. But I could not help but think that in today's Hollywood, he could work, right? In today's Hollywood, they would find roles for him. But in the 80s, it just was, people just weren't thinking in that mindset. Peter, what's his name? Peter, I can't remember his last name, but you guys know he was on Game of Thrones. He's found a lot of, he's become, and I understand that for every successful, there are 50,000 that didn't make it. But I'm just saying, because Gary Coleman already had that foundation, we are seeing more and more child actors and actresses. Peter Dinklage, thank you. Yeah, you guys. We are seeing more and more child actors and actresses able to make that transition. I think people are a lot more flexible and open to seeing child actors as adults. Whereas before and when I say we, Hollywood didn't want to take them out of that box. So anyway, I said all that because I didn't want to forget, but let me get to my notes so that we can get into the notes. If you did not already watch the documentary, it is a really, really good documentary. It definitely gave me, I knew a lot of this information already, but I definitely learned some stuff, especially as it relates to his relationship with his wife. I learned a lot, but some of this I already knew. However, I have I'll say a different perspective after watching this documentary. I don't know. So let's get into it. So the documentary, it starts off we meet his wife, and it starts off talking about the day he died and the 911 call, and we meet his wife. Now, I'm gonna just go on and tell y'all right now, I think his wife got some issues. I'm gonna say that again in case y'all didn't catch it. If you caught it, tell me you caught it in the chat. I think his wife or ex-wife got some issues. Did you catch it? Tell me y'all caught it. Y'all caught, okay, y'all caught it. Okay. I don't know that to be a fact. I don't know that lady, but something a little off with her. Something a little off with her. So we're listening to the 911 call, and I knew Gary Coleman had passed away. I never knew what the exact details around his death were. I honestly didn't really pay much attention, if I'm being honest. And I always thought it was just connected to his illnesses, that, you know, his kidney illness. I honestly thought it was just something connected. But he died of a brain hemorrhage. And you hear her, hey, Mr. Willie Brown, hey, boo. You hear her on the 911 call. And I'm not gonna condemn this woman for not. A lot of his friends felt some kind of way because on the 911 call, you know, I listen to a lot of true crime. Y'all know I like a lot of true crime. And so I've heard these types of phone calls before where the person is calling 911 and 911 is like, well, did you check to see if they're still alive? Well, can we try to do some CPR, whatever? And the person on the phone is like, no, I just can't. I don't want to touch the body. Da, da, da. Like, I've heard this before. So she was like, I can't do it. It's too much blood. I can't. It's going to make me gag. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to automatically condemn this woman because she saw her husband laying down on the floor and blood everywhere. And she was like, I can't do it. I can't do it. I'm not going to condemn her for that. Now, when you add the other layers, maybe. I do agree. Peace says, I never heard it like that. She made it sound like it was a total inconvenience. Now that I agree with. She did make it sound like she just had something better to do. I do agree. But again, I feel like trauma hits people differently. Now, I will say now, I don't want you to feel like I'm giving her excuses. I'm telling you, this is how I felt in the order in which I saw it on the show. Now, by the time I got to the end of the documentary, I did have a different thought. But at the beginning, when I first heard this, I was like, okay. I mean, it made me feel like, well, dang, you don't want to check to see if your husband is alive? But then on the flip side, I felt like, okay. When I got to the end of it, I did feel differently. I'm not going to lie to you. Especially when we got more details. See, in the beginning, they just said in the beginning, all we just heard was her say she heard a thud. She went downstairs, called 911, and then we hear the 911 call. But by the end, we have some more details. And with those more details, I do have a different point of view. But I'm kind of going in the order in which this information was presented. Okay. So that's how the documentary starts. So then they kind of go back. And they talk about, you know, his early years and how he got into the business. And basically, for those of us who remember actual shopping malls, I know most places we don't have like those indoor malls anymore. And a lot of places we have like those like town centers where the stores are like, you go in and out of the stores. But not just me. Just me. Just me gonna jump into my son. She did it. Leslie, I said I'm gonna get to that at the end, girl. I'm with you. I'm with you, girl. I'm with you. I'm gonna get to that at the end, though. But you're right. That's why I said by the time I got to the end of the documentary, I did have a different thought process. But we found out that when he was a kid, like 6 years old, his mom was taking him back to school shopping. They were doing a fashion a fashion show in the mall, and he wanted to be a part of it. And it almost sounds like he was the one that actually reached out to the people in charge of the fashion show and asked to be a part of it. And they put him in the fashion show. And from there, he was so charismatic and he stood out so much that the people were like, hey, your son is a star. You need to get him an agent. Like, he's definitely has, he has charisma, he has personality and all that good stuff. And so they went. Can you listen before you watch? Yeah, I mean, honestly, Raven, a lot of this information you probably already know. And as you guys know, I always give you the overview, but there's always more information to glean. And then you may hear things differently, right? But it's no spoiler here because, I mean, I think we know. I mean, if you absolutely don't know who Gary Coleman is, maybe. But for most of us in my generation and older, we know who Gary Coleman is, and we know a lot of this information. Like I said, I got some details that I didn't have before. Thank you, Raven. Thank you, boo. Baby, this humidity done got me already. You see, child, but it's all good. So from there, he started getting commercials, and they say that this one bank commercial is really what put him over the edge. I'm assuming it was like a nationwide campaign, and everybody just sort of fell in love with him. And that's when he got the attention of Norman Lear. We all know who Norman Lear is. They flew him out to audition for Norman Lear, and that's where we see him make his debut, his television debut on Good Times, when he was the little kid stalking Penny. Okay, if you don't remember that episode of Good Times, then I don't know what to tell you. I don't know if we can be friends. Okay. If you haven't seen that episode of Good Times, I don't know if we could be friends. But anyway, so from there, they found out that they were casting for a new show, which is Different Strokes. And they were basically they wanted him, right? He was a shoo-in, they wanted him, or what have you. Can I put a pin in that for a minute? Y'all know how I go left. Hold on. Todd Bridges, who was the only living person from that show, he did interview. He interviewed for the documentary. I was actually surprised that his parents took part in this documentary as well, but they did. I was actually kind of surprised. I remember, you guys remember when they did the live taping of Good Times a few years, maybe 2 years ago. They did a Facts of Life episode and a Good Times episode back to back, and of course they brought back the alum from the shows like Tootie, Kim Fields was there, and Todd Bridges was there. And I remember seeing an interview a few months ago where Kim Fields was talking about that night, and she was saying how she saw Todd, and because they were all friends, they all grew up together, especially Black kids, the Black Hollywood kids, they all knew each other. They were all friends. And she was saying how she saw Todd and she saw how emotional Todd was and how that was just it was almost like a bittersweet moment for him. But she said in that moment, it really hit her that he literally is the only person still alive connected to Different Strokes. I mean, that was on the show, actors on the show. And she said she went behind the bleachers or what have you they had there. She said she just boohooed, just thinking about the heaviness of that moment. And she said she cried for her friend because she understood how emotional and how hard of a night that was for him. Because I think she said he almost didn't come. They weren't even sure if he was going to actually come or not. So anyway, I just remember thinking about that, and it made me think when I first saw him on the documentary, it made me think of that. So immediately, we know, again, if you grew up in that time period, you know that Gary Coleman was the star. He was the breakout star. Everybody loved Gary Coleman. He was everywhere. He had endorsements. He did other movies. He worked, and was making a lot of money. I remember an interview, and I wish they had put this clip in there. I really wish they had put this clip. I remember seeing an interview with Gary Coleman one time that said, Gary Coleman said, my parents always told me when it wasn't fun anymore, I could quit. And when I stopped having fun, I told them I didn't want to do it anymore, but they would not let me quit. And I told them, you broke your promise to me because you promised that when I stopped having fun, I could quit. And now you won't let me. And I'm paraphrasing because I remember the exact words, but that's pretty much what it was. And I really wish they had put that clip in there, especially around the time where his friend was talking about when he wanted to quit, and his manager and his family and they would not let him quit. And they told him, basically, you paying too many people's salaries to quit right now. At 2 years old is when they found out he had the kidney deficit. He had a kidney transplant at 5 years old, but it wasn't, and I always thought it was the kidney transplant that stunted his growth. It wasn't the kidney transplant that stunted his growth. It was the drugs that he took after the transplant, like the drugs that he needed for his body. That is what actually stunted his growth and what made him have the swollen, like the puffed out face. Which of course I was like, wow, that part I didn't know. I always thought it was because of the kidney, but it wasn't. It was the drugs after the kidney. And I always, again, and I'm gonna just keep going left and right, y'all. I always, in this moment, I was thinking about when they talked about wanting to leave the industry and how his family wouldn't let him do it. And his friend was saying how he wanted to quit, like he wanted to just do something different. He didn't want to be in the entertainment industry at all. And I remember, I always think of Emmanuel Lewis, because Emmanuel Lewis, although he never hit the heights that Gary Coleman hit, he definitely was on that same trajectory. He was a childhood star. He had the height. I forget what his disease, his illness is, but we know that Emmanuel Lewis, again, didn't grow past a certain height. But I remember Emmanuel Lewis left the industry. He went to college. He went to Clark Atlanta University. And I remember, he drove, and, even now he's actually active on TikTok. And he is a regular guy. And he will tell you, I'm good. He will tell you, he'll tell you in a minute, like Emmanuel Lewis will tell you, oh, I'm good financially. Oh, I'm good. I'm good money. Like, and when he says good, I'm not saying that he's a billionaire, but I think his parents handled his money well. And I don't know what he does for a living, but I do know he went to college. And I know that for the most part, Emmanuel Lewis really has not been in the entertainment industry. And I don't know if it was because of lack of opportunities or if he really truly didn't try a lot. But I just think I just see the comparison that his family let him walk away. His family let him explore other things and be a regular kid and go to college and all of those things, you know what I'm saying? But anyway, after the kidney transplant, his doctor said that he will be lucky to live to see 12. But at 12, he will probably need to have another transplant. Okay, so he opened up a string of car washes and was very successful with it. Thank you, Just Me. I never knew that. But I know that Emmanuel Lewis, he's on, like I said, he's very active on TikTok. And if you go over to TikTok and just watch some of his lives, and I don't watch all of his lives, but I've watched a few, somebody always talks to him about money. Somebody always talks to him about, and he doesn't say it in a bragging way. He just says it like, I'm good. Emmanuel's good. He always says, Emmanuel's good. I'm good. Right? But anyway, but thank you. I didn't know that he did that. I kind of remember someone saying it was the drugs and his kidneys affecting his height and chubby cheeks. Yeah, I don't remember ever hearing that, but y'all do, so it must have been said before. So Anita Thomas was his business manager. She's going to be important in a minute. Honestly, I put all of this on her ass. I'm going to tell you the truth. I put all of this on Anita Thomas. We're going to get back to her ass. Put a pin in her. I put all of this on Anita Thomas. Okay. They said that everything was good on set. They were like one big happy family. Todd and Gary were really close. They were like brothers. Ravine said, yes, I remember seeing Emmanuel on the campus of Clark Atlanta. He was cool. Yeah, I remember him going to Clark Atlanta. He has a form of dwarfism that affects the growth hormone. Thanks, Janae. Thank you, boo. Janae, I saw your pictures. I'm jealous, girl. I saw who you were hanging out with this weekend. I'm jealous, girl. He said that they said that they were, because Todd is only like 2 years older than Gary Coleman. And he said they were like one big happy family. They were all, they all got along. They were all cool until his father started coming to the set. And they said the minute his father started showing up to set is when things changed and when it became a problem. He said that the first day his father came up, that his father showed up to set and said, make way for the star. The star is coming. The star is coming. And they said Gary came through the door sitting on top of some dude who they found out later was his bodyguard, right? And they were like, that's when they knew, okay, some shit done changed. And baby, can I tell y'all that hairdresser is the one that was cracking me up? The hairdresser, I should have wrote her name down. I did not write her name down. But when I tell you that the hairdresser was cracking me up, because she said that, the first season on the show, Gary was cute. He was funny. He liked to play jokes. He used to, like to prank people. But baby, she said the day his father showed up, she said Gary went from being cute to being ugly. And she said all the negative attributes that his father brought onto the set, Gary picked up and he became a nasty, nasty kid. She said one day, baby, this thing cracked me up. She said one day Gary said something like, what if I smack you? Or I'm going to smack. Or, no, he said, come here so I can smack you. And she said, she told him, she said, if you smack me, that's going to be the end of different strokes because I'm going to whoop your ass. Baby, I fell out. And I believe she said it. I believe she said it exactly how she said it too. I believe she said it exactly how she said it. Because she looked like she didn't play no games. She looked like she didn't play no games. Okay? Because she said that Gary used to hide the combs because he told her that it hurt when she used to comb their hair. And I saw her think about what she was getting ready to say. Because I know she said, well, I told him. And then she stopped. And I said, she probably told him because you got some nappy ass hair. I feel like that's what she said to that boy because this was an older black lady. And I feel like she told him because you got some nappy ass hair and I got to get this comb through this afro, okay? Now sit down. Like, I feel like that's how she was talking to him. But you can see she sort of paused like, wait a minute, let me make sure. Let me choose my words carefully right now. But she told him, she said, you slap me, that's going to be the end of different strokes because I'm going to whoop your ass. Baby, I cracked up because I believe she said it. I believe she said it. She said that shortly after that, Gary got sick again. He was very, very sick on the set. They said literally he would be throwing up, and what they found out is that his body had what's the word I'm looking for, y'all? His body had it absorbed. His body had absorbed his kidney. And from 1985 until his death, Gary Coleman lived basically without a kidney. He was on dialysis twice a week. And so, and I wondered why they never tried to give him another kidney. Again, I don't know what the medical diagnosis limitations are. Like, I'm not sure, but I'm wondering why they never gave him another kidney. But anyway, but they said that, so he was on dialysis for the rest of his life. But the hairdresser, she said that the people on the show asked her, hey, T Lounge, the people on the show asked her, how's Gary doing? And she said she told them Gary's sick. Like, he's really sick. She said because she spent the most time with them, I guess, doing their hair or whatever. So they asked her kind of like, well, what do you really think? Like, what's really going on with Gary? And she said Gary's sick. And so the show shut down for like a couple of days so that Gary could rest. And she said that his father rolled up on her and was like, what did you tell them? Like, what did you tell them to get the show shut down? And she said, I told him he's sick and he needs some rest. And she said the father told her, basically, mind her business. Gary need to work because he got bills to pay, right? My bills. All right, that ain't what the daddy said. But basically but the daddy did tell her mind her business. Now, what I find interesting is that Gary Coleman's original manager defended the father. He said, no, I don't remember that ever happening. If anything, I remember the opposite, because Gary was offered a whole lot of money to go to Australia to do some work down in Australia. And the father turned it down because he felt like Gary was too sick to do that much traveling. And we left a lot of money on the table. Like, that was a fortune that we left that we didn't do. So he was defending the dad, but we're going to find out later why he was defending the dad. Okay. Cause they was all in this shit together. Listen, we're going to get to the mama and the daddy. All right. We're going to get to the mama and the daddy. Okay. It said they made that baby work when his body wasn't one. Oh yeah. Okay. So as he moved on in different strokes, the show would not age him. It was really interesting that everybody else on the show aged. They allowed them to age, go to high school, graduate from high school, and all of those other things. But Gary, they aged him very, very slow, obviously because of his height. We get it. But what I found interesting, and I had actually forgotten about that episode, they actually had done an episode about his height. They wrote that into the show. So it's interesting that they wrote it into the show about his height and how he would not grow tall because of whatever medical condition they gave him on the show. So it makes sense that they could have aged him. I get it, though. They're always reluctant to age child actors. They do it all the time. Them kids on 90210 was grandparents and they were still in college. Okay, I get it. Okay, I get it. But it was just interesting. So that is when he really became so unhappy, is that they would not allow him to age. He was 17 years old, and he just didn't feel like they were treating him or showing him as a 17-year-old kid. In 1986, the show was canceled, and at that point, Gary no longer wanted to. He no longer. Thank you, Peace. Yeah, for those people that are coming in on my main channel, it's a members only chat. But if you want to chat freely, you don't have to join the membership. You can go to my review channel and you can chat freely. And my mod just dropped that link in the chat. Thank you, boo. All right, let me pin that. Hold on. Let me pin that. So, hold on, y'all. Let me pin it. All right. And we gonna pin it. Okay. Thank you, Peace. So that's a pin. I pinned it now, so anybody can come in. Okay. And so and that is when he basically told his parents, I do not want to do this. I want to leave show business. Like, Different Strokes is over. I'm 18 years old. I really want to explore some other things. Like, I've been doing this since I was 8 years old. I really want to do something else. And his parents were like, yeah, no, we can't do that. Like, you are basically providing support for a lot of people, and we just can't allow that to happen. And here's where Dion comes in. Now, Dion Mile, that's his last name, Mile, had been his friend since he was a kid. Now, I don't remember what Dion's family did, but Dion's family was in the industry because that's how he met. That's how he met Gary Coleman, because his mom was like, oh, I've got to go meet this Gary Coleman sensation, and took him to the set of A Different Strokes. And later on in the documentary, when the parents basically accuse him of trying to be cool with Gary for his money and access to his money. Exactly, Pam. Oh yes, exactly. His parents got used to that lifestyle. Yep, that's exactly what happened. We're gonna get there in a minute. We almost there with the parents. We almost there. We're gonna get there. He said, I didn't need Gary Coleman for money. I had money. My family is successful. I've been, like I have access. Like I didn't need Gary Coleman for clout. I didn't need Gary Coleman. Now I do think somewhere in the middle is the truth. I think he enjoyed being Gary Coleman's friend. Even though he is in the industry and his family is in the industry, I absolutely believe that he enjoyed being Gary Coleman's friend, right? Dion's mom was Gary's teacher. Okay, Dion's mom was Gary's teacher. Okay. Thank you, because I missed when he said how he was connected. But I do I think that Dion... I'm going to get to Dion because my feelings about Dion are a little complicated. They're not black and white. I'm going to get to Dion in a second. But what I do feel like is, let's stay on his parents for right now. Okay, we're going to get to Dion in a minute. But here's where Dion comes into play. He said that Gary was depressed. He said that his parents and his manager kept making him work. He shot like 2 or 3 pilots after A Different Strokes, and they kept like making him work, and he didn't want to work, and they weren't listening to him. He was telling them he didn't want to work, but they weren't listening, and they were making him work anyway. And he said that Gary actually called him one night and told him, basically, I'm saying goodbye because I don't want to do this anymore. Nobody's listening to me, and the only way I know how to stop is to just not be here anymore. So he said he went over to Gary's house that night, and he said Gary hadn't done anything to himself, but he was sitting in the dark, very depressed. And he said, we stayed up all night. We did the things. We stayed up, we cried, we talked, and we decided we were going to go to Hawaii. We decided Gary was going to get away, and we were going to go to Hawaii. So they went to Hawaii. While they were in Hawaii, basically, he said he had some hard heart-to-hearts with Gary. And Gary asked him point blank, like, what do people think of me? What are they saying about me? What is going on with my management? Do you know anything about my money? Like, Gary is starting to realize that there's some situations with the money now. And Dion was like, well, I have heard some things, right? I've heard people making comments about you being an asshole, and the only reason why they put up with you is because you paid them so well. I have heard people making these comments about you basically being a cash cow kind of situation. So when they got back from Hawaii, Gary fired everybody. He fired his manager that had been his manager since he was 8 years old. He fired his parents. He fired his business manager. He fired everybody. He He hired Dion as his business manager. As his manager. I think his business manager. And he hired some new attorneys. When the new attorneys came on board, basically they did an audit of Gary's money. They were trying to figure out what happened. How much money does he have? Okay. What kind of money did he have? All of that stuff. They did basically an audit of the books. And what they found, and again, I've heard this. Okay. What they found was the following. And mind you, everybody blaming Dion. His parents blaming Dion, the ex-partner. Now, what I find interesting is that the business manager, what I tell y'all her name was? Anita de Thomas wasn't in the documentary. Now, I don't know. She may not be among us anymore, but I find it interesting that she did not cooperate. But again, I didn't Google. She might not be here no more. I don't know. Drew Royce became his new lawyer. And what they found is that in his lifetime, up to that point, Gary Coleman had earned $18 million. Now, I want y'all to understand something. This is 1987. Gary Coleman is only 18 or 19 years old at this point. Literally, that means that for every year he had been here, he had earned damn near $1 million. And we're talking about 1987 money, $1 million. I mean, $18 million today ain't nothing to sneeze at, but certainly in the 80s, we could probably double that, you know, a lot of money. Here's how the money was broken down. 20% went to his parents because his parents were working in the capacity of his management. 10% went to his agent. 5% went to his business manager. And 7% went to his lawyer. Now, that is industry standard, they said. They said nothing about that is really ridiculous or too high. Maybe the 20% for his parents is a bit much, but neither here nor there. That's not ridiculous. However, this is before taxes. So before taxes, Gary Coleman has already given away damn near half of his earnings. Here's where the shit got tricky, though. By California state law, 25% of Gary Coleman's income was supposed to go into a savings account that could not be touched until he was 18 years old. Here's where it got tricky. Now, I think the 20% for his parents was a bit high, but that ain't my business. But it's this 25%. Those percentages were industry standard. However, his parents should have them more than like 15%. Right. I think the 20% for the parents was high. The rest of it, yeah. Agent 10%, business manager 5%. That, again, where it got tricky is this 25% that they were supposed to put into account that nobody was supposed to be able to touch except for Gary Coleman when he was 18 years old. And here's where I'm going to blame Anita. Because I'm going to say something. Now, this ain't politically correct what I'm getting ready to say. So I don't want y'all to get mad at me, but I'm going to call a thing a thing. Okay? I'm going to call a thing a thing. I absolutely believe that in the very beginning, Gary Coleman's parents ain't no shit from Shinola. They was from Chicago coming to LA. Their son blew up. All of a sudden, money is being thrown. They living that good life. The money is abundant and it is there. And they have all of these white people telling them what they need to do and how they need to do it. I absolutely believe that Anita sat down and told them what they needed to do and had them sign the paperwork. That's what I believe. That's what I believe. Now, I'm not giving Gary Coleman's parents a pass. I'm not. Because I think that even if you did not realize what you were doing was some fugazi, I have a problem with the fact that they never apologized to their son and they never took any accountability for it. Even in this documentary, they're not saying we fucked up. We did. We fucked up the money. We were wrong. We were listening to the wrong people. We made some really bad decisions and it cost our son everything he worked for. Had they said that in this documentary, y'all, I probably wouldn't even have no smoke for them because I'd be like, you know what? They were just trying to figure it out too. And they had all these people telling them what they were supposed to be doing, putting paperwork in front of them, having them sign the paperwork, and they went on about their merry little way. But let me tell y'all what happened with this 25% of the money that was supposed to be set aside that wasn't nobody supposed to touch. First thing they did was they took money out of that to make investments. They bought real estate. They bought businesses. The problem was everything they used that money for that was supposed to be an investment for Gary went bust. It was a failure. I don't know how you be failing at real estate, but they failed. Yeah, both of his parents were in the documentary. Both of his parents were in the documentary. So the first thing, so when I heard that, I said, okay, they were wrong for taking the money from that trust, But I was like, but they were trying to invest the money. They just made some fucked up investments, right? I'm still trying to get the parents to pass, y'all. I'm still trying to help the parents out because I know Ricky Schroeder's parents and some other child actors' parents, they absolutely did. Okay, she passed away. Thank you, Ravine. She passed away, y'all. So that's why Nita wasn't in the documentary. Nita won't hear. Nita won't hear to talk about it. But like I know Ricky Schroeder's parents bought a bunch of like Taco Bells and gas stations and shit. He good, even though he's a racist ass Trump supporter now, but that's another conversation for another day. But I said, well, maybe they were trying. The problem is the money they were using was money they weren't supposed to be using. So that's the first thing they did with the money that was wrong. The second thing they did with the money that was wrong was they gave themselves loans out of that $25,000. Now, here's why I say I blame Anita, because I think Anita set this bullshit up, right? Here's why I say Anita set this bullshit up. First of all, because Anita was the business manager. Number one, she was the one in charge of the money. So even if the parents wanted to go into Gary's account, she was supposed to tell them no. She wasn't supposed to let them do it. So I put a lot of this on her because that was your job. Now, I ain't letting the parents off the hook. But Anita, your job was to be the gatekeeper, and you did not gatekeep. And not only did you not gatekeep, you put your hand in the cookie jar too, because what they had said in that documentary was that the parents, it wasn't just the parents that took out loans against this account. Anita did too. Now, Anita, why are you getting money from Gary? You was already getting paid 5% of all of his money. Why do you need a loan? So that's why I say I feel like Anita set it up, because Anita got loans too. So the parents got loans, and then Anita got loans. And then they had the nerve to say there was never an expectation for them to pay that money back. How sway? How sway that there was never an expectation for you to pay that money back? It's called a loan for a reason. LOAN, for a reason. So that's the second thing they did with this 25% that what nobody's supposed to be able to touch. The third thing they did, and this is where the shit got grimy, and this is where I looked at the parents and I said, okay, this is where I looked at the parents. I said, okay, you was with the bullshit, okay? They used that money to set up a pension account that was supposed to be for Gary, right? They told the court, because remember, every time they went into this account, they had to take it to the court, and the court had to sign off on it. They set up a pension account for like, did I write that amount down? Hold on. Loans from savings account, never set up this of money. Okay, I ain't write that amount down, but it was some ridiculous amount. It was like $700,000 or something like that, or something crazy. They set up a pension account that was supposed to be for Gary, right? But let me tell y'all what they did. Once they set the account up, y'all listening? Anita dissolved the account, and the parents took the money. I'm going to say it one more time. They set up a pension account that was supposed to be for Gary. Once it was set up, they dissolved the account and then took the money. Y'all, And this how I know that the parents are some bullshit, because the mama even said in the documentary, well, we didn't know we were doing anything wrong by setting up a pension for ourselves. That's the problem, ma'am. You wasn't supposed to be setting up a pension for yourself. You were supposed to be setting up a pension for him. It was never supposed to be for you anyway. Period. You set up a pension off that 20% that you took. How about that? Set up a pension off the 20% that you gave yourself. Y'all was already paying yourself 20% of that boy's money. Set up a pension off of that. Why are y'all using his money to set up a pension? Oh, but it gets worse. Here's where the parents really did it for me. This is when I said, fuck them. So Gary went to his parents basically to say, hey, I did an audit and this is what's going on with my money. Can you explain it? Can we figure it out? Can you give me my money back? Like, he went to his parents to have a conversation, and his parents were basically like, I don't know what you want. I don't know what you want from us. And Gary left that meeting. They said, Dion said, Gary left that meeting very upset and basically felt like he had no choice. And that is when he sued his parents for his damn money. Y'all want to know what his parents did? His parents' response to him suing them for his money wasn't, oh my gosh, Gary, can we work this out? We are so sorry. You worked so hard. You kept us. We lived a good life. We was driving Benzes and living in the Hollywood Hills and going to Hollywood parties and flying first class and taking vacations and shopping at Neiman's. We was living good off of you, bruh. Instead of saying that, do y'all know what his parents did? His parents tried to get him put under a what? Conservatorship. Now, because of Britney Spears and Amanda Bynes, we are very familiar with conservatorship and all of the things that go into a conservatorship. His parents took him to court. Now, mind you, by this time, he's 20 years old by this time. His parents took him to court to get him put under conservatorship. You know what they said? His mother said this. So I'm paraphrasing, but this came from the mama. Well, you know, because of the medicines that he's on, because of his illness, it makes him confused. And we just think he needs, we don't think that he's thinking clearly. And with all of his medical issues, we just think he needs some help. So now he has to go to court and basically prove to everybody that he can take care of himself and he's of sound mind and body. Now, luckily for him, he got a good judge, because in the documentary, the judge was like, let me talk to you, bruh. The judge took him in the back, took him to her chambers one-on-one and said, I want to have a conversation with you. I need to talk to you. They said that he was, his friend said he was so embarrassed that he had to basically prove that he wasn't crazy or that he was competent. He was so embarrassed by this. Because remember, he's 4'8", but he's 20 years old. So people already think that he's a kid, and people see the appearance and they don't think you're an adult. Anyway, he went back there and he talked to the judge. And when the judge came back, baby, they said the judge laid his parents out. And they did play a clip where the judge was like, yeah, there's absolutely nothing wrong with him. It is abundantly clear to me that he is of sound mind and body. And how dare you? How dare you? Ultimately, Gary Coleman did win his case against his parents, and they were awarded $1.2 million. Now, again, The reality of the situation is if you break down that 18 million and you take 25% of that 18 million, 1.5 million certainly is nowhere close to what because there's still money that's unaccounted for. Let's be clear. There's still a lot of money because even if you do the math and you add up the percentages, there's still about 20% that's unaccounted for. So the $1.8 million, which his parents probably never paid, let's call a thing. Because if I remember correctly, they didn't say it in the documentary, but if I remember correctly, by the time all of this was said and done, his parents were like, we ain't got no money, we broke. If I remember correctly, by the time the court issued their judgment, if I remember correctly, his parents were like, we don't have it. And again, remember, y'all, this is in like the it's the late 1980s, early 1990s. Again, $1.5 million is a lot of money to come up with today. But again, back then, $1.5 million was probably like, 2 million, 2.2 million. And they was like, yeah, we ain't got it. So I don't know if Gary ever got that money. But even if he did, that's still, you thought it was 3.8. I wrote 1.3. But if you might be right. I wrote down 1.3, but I could have wrote it down wrong, Amber. I could have wrote it down wrong. But either way, I don't think he ever got it. And even if he did, that's still, they still took a lot of that boy money. But you could be right, Amber. I wrote down 1.3, but I could have wrote it down wrong. So basically, you guys, by this point, Gary did want to get back into the industry. I think him wanting to get back into the industry was more financial than it was desire, if I'm being honest. Only because at this point, what else was he going to do? He had never gone to formal school. I mean, he went to school on sets all of his life. That doesn't mean he's stupid. Let's be clear. Never went to college. All he's ever done his whole life has been an actor. 3.6 is still okay. So it was 3.6. Okay, thank you. Then I was wrong. It was 3.6. Thank you, Gabby and Amber. Thank you, guys. So 3.6 is still old. Okay. So at this point, it would go. Now, see, the problem is at this point it would go to his estate, and I don't know who the executive of his estate was because he was divorced from his wife, so it wouldn't automatically go to her. But I don't know who the executor of his estate would have been because his wife got to make medical decisions for him. We're going to get to that in a minute. His wife was able to make medical decisions for him. So I wonder who gets that money if and when his parents, I mean, I don't know what's going on legally with it at this point. If his parents pay, I don't know. Clearly they ain't paying because if the judgment was 3.8 and they still owe 3.6, clearly they not paying nothing. Where does the money go from I don't know, from the documentary. I don't know. It's all good. You said my stupid notification, child. I don't know, you guys. That's a good question. I don't know. If he doesn't have an executor, it would be his parents. So would they going to be paying themselves? I mean, we'll go to his estate, but again, he doesn't have any kids. He doesn't have any, who does his estate go to? Because if he doesn't have an executive, he didn't have paperwork to put somebody in charge, then it would default to his parents and by him being divorced. However, the fact that he had a medical directive and all of that, it sounds like his affairs were in order. I mean, he had a medical directive and everything else. So I don't know. Those are good questions that the documentary did not talk about. I don't think the documentary said who. Now, Dion seems to be a de facto director, executor. And the reason why I say that is because he has Gary Coleman's memorabilia. Remember, he showed that in the documentary that he's got a garage full of Gary Coleman memorabilia. So if there is an estate, all of that will belong to the estate. So the fact that he has possession of it, I'm wondering if he is the de facto executor. I mean, I don't know. You think it would go to his last wife? I don't think that's how it works. If you're divorced, I don't think it automatically goes to your wife. It will go to your parent. It will go to your living heir, and it would be his parents since he doesn't have kids. I don't know. Those are all good questions. It wasn't addressed in the documentary, and I have no idea. So here's where we start to see Gary's life after this. I mean, he's living on his own. He's got an apartment. Dion is his manager, trying to get him work. But basically, Dion was like, and this is what I said at the beginning of this. Dion was kind of like, listen, Gary sort of has unrealistic, he wanted to be an action star. He wanted to play a villain. He wanted to play a cop. And it just wasn't a lot of people that were open to that idea of this 4'8" guy playing these roles. And all I could think of was, wow, he would be able to work today. Like, especially him playing a villain, he would play a great villain. He would have been able to play a great villain because of his height. But the problem is nobody ever saw him as Gary Coleman. They always saw him as Arnold. Arnold from A Different Strokes. Like, nobody ever saw him outside of that. It was really, really hard. Now, the funny thing is, or the ironic thing is, when he used to play in all of, back in the day, they used to have the TV movies of the week, and he played in a bunch of those movies. I remember the kid with the IQ, and remember he played a ghost one time, and like I remember him playing in these different movies that I thought were really good roles where he wasn't Arnold, and he didn't say, "What you doing? What you talking about, Willis?" Like, he didn't do any of that, and I feel like there would have been an avenue for him had he been able to really kind of, I don't know. I feel like there would have been. You can get a medical director while hospitalized. I wouldn't give them parents nothing. They should go to charity or foundation in his name. Danny DeVito played the Penguin in Batman. If his parents had his estate, that would be sad. Just looked it up. His friend Ken Emmons was named executive of the estate per Gary's will. Okay. Thank you, Audrey. Thank you. So that is who the exec. So whatever money his parents pay will go to the estate. And like I said, I know Dion, his friend Dion, has a lot of his memorabilia. I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't know. So yeah. So we find now. Listen, what we find out is Gary Coleman was a little suave dude, right? His first little girlfriend, I ain't gonna say little girlfriend, and I ain't gonna say it's his first girlfriend, but the girlfriend we meet, she says that she was working at a Blockbuster, and he came in there to get a movie, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, it's Gary Coleman. What the hell is Gary Coleman doing in my Blockbuster?" And she said when she got off work that night, baby, she said he was sitting on the hood of her car waiting for her. And she said that was like 2 or 3 hours after he had been in the store. And she was like, "What are you doing here?" And he was like, "Waiting for you." Gave her his phone number. She said she called him later on that night to make sure it was really his phone number. And she said they talked all night and became really, really, really good friends, really, really, really close. She said she ended up moving in with him. And then they were a thing for like, I think she said they were together for like 6 years. I think she really, truly cared for him. I think she really, really, truly cared for him. And I think she probably was really one of the friends that they talked to, I think were really, really good friends to him. She talked about how their relationship was romantic, but not necessarily sexual. I don't know if their relationship was ever consummated. But she said he was very romantic. And I feel like they showed a clip from an interview he did on Howard Stern where he said he wasn't born with that bravado that most men have to want to jump on women and conquest women. But I honestly think his medical issues probably have a lot to do with that. I think his medical issues, maybe he couldn't. Maybe because of the medication that he was on, he couldn't function. I don't know. But I think his lack of sexual drive probably was connected to his medical issues. Now, that's not to say he never ever had sex in his life, but she said that their relationship was romantic, not sexual. And like I said, in that Howard Stern interview, that was in the 90s, he said he was still a virgin. So again, that's not to say I ain't saying he died a virgin, but she did speak on that. So they were together, and then Gary went to go film a movie, and that is where he met his wife, Shannon. And again, sound like he was real debonair and suave with her too. You know, she said, you know, he saw her and she was there. She said she wanted to be an extra for the movie. And he was like, oh, you're too pretty to be here. I said, you better go ahead, Gary, with your slick self. You too pretty to be here. And then she said that he told her, you know, if go in there and just tell him I sent you. And she ended up being an extra in the movie. And that's when they started dating. Here's where she lost me. When she said she didn't know who he was. Now, granted, she was young. I think like somebody in the chat said she was only 19. She was young. She did not grow up on different strokes, this, that, and the other. But I don't know if I believe she didn't know who he was. She may not have been impressed with who he was. But I don't necessarily believe that she didn't know who he was. Now, the girlfriend from the Blockbuster said, that their relationship was sort of open. You know, he was free to date other people. She was free to date other people. They didn't have that type of monogamous type situation. And so she said that she met Shannon and she ain't like Shannon. Said she ain't like Shannon from the dough. She saw her coming and she ain't like her from the dough. Shannon even said there was one night old girl from the Blockbuster got drunk and spit in her face. And here's why I believe it happened. I believe it happened because old girl from the Blockbuster said, after one very unfortunate night, she said, after one very unfortunate night, I told Gary it's probably best that I leave and let him explore this. I said, you did it. You spit in that lady face. You did it. You did it. The two of them got married. And for all intents and purposes, it sounds like, right, she was being very politically correct, but yeah, you spit in that girl face. It sounded like it was a very tumultuous relationship. It sounded like it was a very emotionally and physically abusive relationship. And this is when I knew something wasn't right with this lady, with the wife, Shannon. Shannon said, yeah, I hit him. I mean, I slapped him a couple of times. But I mean, that's what people do in relationships. And anybody that say that it don't happen in their relationship is lying. I don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry, what? So one, you admit that you slapped that man. Now, granted, their friends said that it went both ways. Their friends said that they were physical with each other. Their friends say they were physical with each other. But for her to be like, but for her to just be like, I mean, yeah, I slapped him a couple of times. But that's normal for her to act like that's just normal. I was like, wait, what? And we're still not going to forget that Gary Coleman was 4'8" tall. Again, that doesn't mean he can't hit. That doesn't mean he can't swing. That doesn't mean he can't connect. But he was still 4'8" tall. Okay? And this was a grown-ass woman. She said, baby, when she said, and then if anybody tell you that they don't do what they lying, that was the part that got me. Was it's the no. It wasn't that yet. Like again, y'all. Even if she had been like, look, things were bad with us. It was a toxic situation. We were physical with each other, and that's not cool. You know, yada 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 yada. But for her to act like it was normal and be like, and if anybody say they don't do it, they lying. That's the part that I was like, ma'am. Lexi said, hey, Really B, you currently cooking Korean rib tips, garlic, string beans, mashed potatoes, and jalapeno popper biscuit. Girl, I'm coming to your house. The next time I'm in your city and you know I know where you live, I want a dinner. I'll pay for the groceries, girl, because you'll be cooking. Excuse me, y'all. I was thirsty. Well, I almost drank that whole bottle of water. I was thirsty. So they did end up getting divorced, but they still lived together as roommates. The other thing that the friends felt was that she was a gold digger child. The friends felt like she was a gold digger. They said that even though there wasn't a lot of money, she was always pushing him to go out and work, pretty much take any job that anybody would offer him because she wanted to get paid. She wanted money. Now, I found it funny. She kept talking about him working and him paying the bills, but I don't remember her saying nothing about her job. I don't remember hearing nothing about her job. This around this time that Gary, y'all remember when he became a security guard and he got clowned a lot about being a security guard. Remember? But they said he loved it. They said because he always wanted to go into law enforcement. He wanted to play a cop, as an actor. That was like his dream job. And so he really, really loved being a security guard. He really loved it. But unfortunately, he got into a situation with a fan. Now, let me tell y'all something. Can I say something to y'all? We as fans, all of us as fans, we have got to stop. I know, remember I defended Anthony Mackie, and some of y'all felt like I shouldn't be defending Anthony Mackie, but Anthony Mackie has made it very clear that I am an actor. My office hours are from 9 to 5. If you see me on the street, act like you don't know me, G. If we in the mall together, the movies together, act like you don't know me, G. Because my job is to bring you entertainment via a movie or television show. I am not obligated, nor is it part of my job description to stop and take pictures, sign autographs, or just have a conversation with you, okay? And I know a lot of people don't agree with that, and I know people feel some kind of way when Anthony tell y'all that, but Anthony has been consistent, and I support it. Now, according to what they said happened with Gary Coleman, this lady came up to him and wanted an autograph. Now, he signed the autograph. Let's be clear. He signed the autograph. But then the lady wanted him to write a letter. She wanted him to say something nice. She wanted him to say something along the lines of, best wishes. Great meeting you. You're a great guy. And Gary was like, yeah, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. Like, ma'am, I signed your autograph. You came up to me out of nowhere. I'm out here trying to buy they said he was down at the store buying his bulletproof vest and all his shit. He was at his job. I'm getting stuff for his job. He signed the autograph. But the lady wanted more. The lady wanted more. So Gary Coleman said, let me tell y'all what Gary Coleman did. Gary Coleman, lady said, can I get an autograph? He said, okay, cool. Here you go, ma'am. The lady said, can you add best wishes or something? Gary was like, yeah, no, I can't do that. Here you go. She said, well, it's for my son. You can't add nothing for my son? Gary said, I ain't got to give you shit. So then the lady said something nasty to Gary, and Gary punched her. Look, I ain't saying Gary was right for putting his hands on that lady, but look, ma'am, you asked for an autograph. That man gave you an autograph, okay? That man gave you an autograph. You asked for one, he gave it to you. You wanted more, he said no. Then you said something smart, and he was like, okay, 1, 2, and I'm out. Now, I don't, I'm about to say something fucked up. Now, I don't know where he punched her because he's 4'8". I don't know if he punched her in the stomach. I don't know where he punched her, but he punched her. Okay. So he got arrested on assault charges. He was sentenced, community service. He was fine. Yeah, he didn't have to do no jail time. Thank goodness. But y'all got to stop. And when I say y'all, I know nobody from my tribe is doing this, but y'all really got to stop with that stuff. Y'all got to stop interrupting people while they minding their business. I get it. We see people that we see on TV or in the movies or in the music, and we get excited because it's like, oh my gosh, there's so-and-so, so-and-so, and so-and-so. But y'all, we just got to be mindful that these people are out trying to enjoy their life and have a good life. You know what I'm saying? We really got to. She did provoke him. In my opinion, she did. But like somebody in the chat said, she fucked around and found out. So, all of this stuff was happening. He got an abusive marriage. He broke. Now, the one job he found, the people was clowning him about the job. And then he can't even have that job because the lady clowned him and he didn't got arrested. Can't be a security guard and now you got, assault charges, He punched her in the eye. She shouldn't have gotten smart talking about she sees why he didn't make it. Right, that's what she said. She said, I see why you didn't make it as a star, or I see why you a failure. Yeah, thank you, Pam. That's what she said. So she fucked around and found out, okay? Okay. So now we go through all of that and we're back at the day Gary died. Now listen, let me be very clear. My attorney is in the chat and she will tell me if I'm going too far. So let me be very clear and say, I am not saying this woman had anything to do with Gary Coleman's death. Let me be clear. Let me say that one more time. I am not saying that this woman had anything to do with Gary Coleman's death. I am telling y'all what happened. So the morning that Gary Coleman had his aneurysm, he had dialysis that day. What up? What up, Brother Dale? Pam said, I'm listening. She said that Gary had his dialysis for that day. Now, anybody who knows people that's had dialysis or you've had dialysis, baby, when you get off of dialysis, generally speaking, you just want to rest, right? You want to take it easy. You want to rest, okay? So he came home and she said that she deals with an inner ear infection. And she was in the bed and she wanted some breakfast. So she asked him to throw some pizza rolls in the microwave for her. Okay. So she said that Gary went downstairs to put the pizza in the microwave, the pizza rolls in the microwave. And then she heard a thud. She said, Gary, you all right? He didn't say nothing. So she was like, Gary, you all right? He didn't say nothing. So then she decided to go downstairs and see what happened because she heard a sound. He wasn't answering her. So she went downstairs and that's when she saw all the blood. Oh, that's the other thing too. His lawyer said that Gary would put in a restraining order, then rescind the restraining order, then put in a restraining order, then rescind the restraining order. Child, their relationship was just toxic. That's when we hear the 911 call. Now, my thoughts on this 911 call were different after I got a little more information than it was at the beginning. Now I am side-eyeing her a little bit, right? The lady trying to be like, is he responsive? Is he talking? Now, she said, I don't know. It's too much blood. I can't go over there. I can't do nothing. It's too much blood. Now, we do hear her talking to him on the 911 call. They do play more of the call, and we hear her talking to him, and it does sound like he was talking back. Like it sounds like he was talking back. I don't know. But the whole call now, like now, after I hear it at the end, it looked real different. But here's where I got real suspicious. Baby, they say after the ambulance came and picked Gary up, she waved at the ambulance as it left, went back in the house, closed the garage, and went back to bed. You ain't ride to the hospital? You ain't jump in your car and follow the ambulance? I mean, I get it, y'all was divorced, but you was still living in his house. That's still your friend. You ain't go to the girl. I'm sorry, what? Then she said she talked to him on the phone, which means you still weren't at the hospital. That means he called you. You still weren't at the hospital. She said you talked to him on the phone, and the last thing he told you was that he loved you. Girl, bye. You know I ain't what he said. I don't believe it. She said she went up to the hospital after the hospital called her and told her it wasn't looking good, by the way. She gets up there and they basically tell her there's nothing we can do. Like, he's gone. We're keeping him alive on life support, but he's gone. Now, she did call Gary's manager and told the manager, you might want to get up here. You might want to get up here. And then she had him taken off of life support 2 days later. He was only on life support for 2 days. But here is the worst part of it all. This hooker, and yeah, I called her a hooker. This hooker. Where's my phone? Dang it, this light. I told y'all, me and this light just, y'all, this hooker took a selfie with Gary Coleman's in the hospital with his head wrapped up on all the machines. She took a fucking selfie and sent it to the newspaper. They published the picture of her with Gary Coleman in a coma. And do y'all know what this hooker said? Yep, I called her a hooker again. Y'all know what this hooker said? Oh, you know she got paid for that. Absolutely, she got paid for that. Y'all know what her ass said? I wanted the world to see that he was a fighter till the very end. Now, this is what I am going to say. She is a despicable person. That's what I am going to say. She's a despicable person. Now, a lot of Gary's friends feel like she had something to do. They don't believe the story. They don't believe that Gary fell himself and caused all of that blood and all of that damage. They say he was only 4'8". Like, how did a fall cause that much? Like, how did he do that to himself without any help, without any assistance? They have some speculations. And the internet had some speculations too. I ain't saying that woman did nothing to Gary Coleman because I ain't trying to. Well, she ain't got no money to sue me, but I ain't trying to get sued. So I ain't saying that woman did nothing to that man. But what I am gonna say is she is a despicable person. That is what I will say. I don't want to see the picture, Gabby. I don't want to see it. I'm sure it's on Google because you know they can't get rid of shit like that. But I don't want to see it. I have no interest in seeing it. And I don't remember seeing it when it was published, which I'm glad I didn't. And I have no interest in seeing. I mean, I know they showed it in the documentary where they they blurred out Gary Coleman's face. They just showed her. She also said she took the picture with tears in her eyes. She took that picture with dollar signs in her eyes because you know she got paid for that picture. Absolutely, she did. But that is really what a lot of people, and I'm gonna be honest, I didn't know. Again, I really wasn't following all of this online. I didn't even realize there were whole like Reddit threads and Twitter threads and stuff about it. But a lot of people do feel like she had something to do with it, and they don't believe the story that she told. They don't buy it. They think that Gary Coleman had some help. I'm just going to say this. I think overall, a lot of this information I knew, but it's always good to be able to put it all in one succinct place with a timeline and everything. But ultimately, y'all, it's just a sad story. Like Gary Coleman's life is sad. It was sad that he was taken advantage of on so many levels. It was sad because it seemed like his happiness was in spurts. I think he was happy doing entertainment for a long time, but when it wasn't fun for him anymore and it became more of a job, it wasn't. And at the end, they played an audio from his last interview, and he said celebrity is a, he didn't use the word curse. I'm not going to put that word in his mouth, but he's like, you just can't get away from it. He said there's nothing you can do about it until you die. Like celebrity is just, it stays with you and you can't escape it. The chat is cutting up. Lord, y'all cutting up in this chat. Okay. Y'all are cutting up in this chat. But overall, it's a good documentary, you guys. I recommend it. I think whoever produced it did a good job because I think towards the end, a lot of people, because Gary Coleman became a very angry person, which we understand. The math ain't math, and Pam. Everybody had their hands in his cookie jar and they took all his money. I agree. The math still ain't mathing. But ultimately, towards the end of Gary Coleman's life, usually only time we saw Gary Coleman towards the end, I know I'm speaking for myself, was in these sound bites where he generally was angry, lashing out, rude, nasty. And so I think towards the end, unfortunately, that was like a lot of people's lasting impression of Gary Coleman. But I think this documentary helped put a lot of that in perspective and explain why he felt the way he felt and why he acted the way he acted and said the things that he said. And we know that the media is going to take the soundbite. They're looking for the story. They're looking for the salaciousness. Too bad he didn't take the Emmanuel Lewis way and went to college. But he wanted to. They wouldn't let him. His family wouldn't let him. That's what they talk about in the documentary. He wanted to quit the business, and they were like, "Yeah, no, you can't do that." And by the time, I guess, he got to the point where he could quit, he didn't have any money and he needed to work. So, yeah, that first woman really did care about him. I'm not sure, you never know why people leave and go somewhere else. He needed a lot of therapy. He did. And I think an apology from his parents would have gone a long way. Granted, he needed the money, obviously, but I think an acknowledgement that they did him wrong and a sincere apology, I think really would have went a long way. This is on Peacock. It's on Peacock, Andrew. He still needed therapy, I believe. I think most child actors need a lot of therapy. What color is the room behind me? Not sure. It's like an earth tone. I have no idea what the name of the color is. Child, these walls been painted for so long, but it's like an earth tone. Yeah, I think that would have gone a long way. But the fact that his parents, even now in this documentary, are taking no accountability. I mean, how do you get past that? When somebody does something to you that's that detrimental to you work your whole life to be broke, and you saw, and here, let's add the fact you saw how your parents were living. You saw that y'all was living in a nice house and driving nice cars and buying nice things. Like, you saw how your parents were living. You know what I mean? So the fact that you saw how your parents were living, and now the realization, wait a minute, y'all was stealing from me the whole time. And you can't even get a sincere apology and an acknowledgement. Yeah. I would be bitter as hell too. I'd be bitter as hell and probably would be like F the world too. You know what I mean? But anyway, y'all, that's all I have. I blame his parents to act like they didn't care. Why couldn't he live with his parents? He didn't want to live with his parents. He wasn't speaking to his parents. His parents, he didn't speak to his parents after the lawsuit. He never spoke to his parents again. And there was even a point where Todd Bridges was saying that Gary, you know, when Gary would give him his phone number, he'd say, don't give it to my parents. If my parents reach out to you, don't tell them how to find me. Don't tell them how to contact me. So it wasn't that he couldn't live with his parents. He didn't want to. He had absolutely, even at the end of the documentary, when he was in the hospital, his mother had to call the police to try to get in touch with the ex-wife. And, you know, all right, let me gift out my memberships for the month of September, and then we're going to get out of here. Let me gift the memberships for the month of September, and then we're going to get out of here. If you are new here, please hit the subscribe button. If you have not already done so, please hit that like button. We really appreciate you. Child, let me, hold on. Here we go. Okay. If you're not subscribed to the review channel, go on over to the review channel and get subscribed. I will be dropping some reviews today over there. There'll be uploads though. Over there. I'm waiting for it to come up, you guys. Y'all know everything moves slow on this damn computer. Because I have to do it from my computer because, you know, I got an iPhone. So, well, no, they taught me how to do it without going through the iPhone. But anyway, and also, if anybody is interested in joining the football league, you know, we have a FanDuel football league. I have 20 slots. I think I've got plenty slots still available. So please let me know. We have a week. Well, not even a week. We have less than a week till kickoff. So we need to fill up this league or I'm going to cancel it. So if you're interested, let me know. Email me at ReallyBTV@gmail.com. Let me know. Okay, we're going to be gifting 5 memberships this month. 5 memberships. So let's see who gets a membership this month. Maybe next month I can give 10 memberships, but this month it's going to be 5. All right. Okay, they should be coming through in the chat any second now. All right. Thank you, Pam. I was gonna say thank you, Pam. Thank you, P. She said check my Cash App. Ooh, that's music to my ears. All right. Congratulations to Sweet Essence, Miss Pretty Amazing, Tawanda D, Lovely Nola, and the Real Tashi. You were all gifted memberships. If you are in the chat, congratulations. Drop down so you can see yourself lit up in green. I'm surprised the Coogan law didn't provide jail time for the parents in addition to refunding the money. Yeah, I don't know why the parents didn't have to do any jail time. I don't know why Anita, because again, I put a lot of this on Anita because Anita knew how to do the paperwork. She knew how to try to circumvent the law. She knew what to do. The parents went along with it, let's be clear, but she knew what to do. Thank you for the Cash App. Thank you, boo. Appreciate you. Appreciate you. Okay. All right, let me get off of here. I think we're going to do Reasonable Doubt. I think we'll get caught up on Reasonable Doubt today. So be on the lookout on the review channel for my Reasonable Doubt updates. All right, y'all. I'm about to be out of here. I'll talk to y'all later. Peace.